Uh-oh. Well, that was part of timeout. Good old timeout. And Dave Brubeck Quartet. Brubeck. What's not to love about that sound? That is Americana exemplified in some wonderfully put together older music. Anyway, I have to paint, and I thought just mellow out, be simplistic, but be contrarian. So the idea of being simplistic and be complicated, meaning talk if I want to talk, or not if I want to not talk. This is about me, not about you. And occasionally, maybe I'll turn around and see who is who, or possibly who is who in typing into my DMs or my messages. Okay. Sometimes I love to paint. Sometimes. Right now, I want to fall in love with it again. Just a little bit. Time's up, time's out, time's up and out and over. I might not be on the planet for too long. Meaning, who knows how long one is to actually live. Whether there's a good Lord taking you away, so to speak, or whether your robot just comes to its dead-end designed function. Perhaps my being's summation, whether it's better, more optimum, more fluid, more unique, more of some more aspect, the idea of living on in some sort of perpetuity of the AI, I guess, is available to the future. Yes. I love drums too. Okay, that being said, I got to mix some paint here while I yammer and find a place to check my links here. I'm gonna almost cry because of what's going on now, not only in Ukraine, all the deaths, but just death everywhere. But Azerbaijan and Armenia now at war, and apparently this has to do with Putin pushing Azerbaijan to war with Armenia. They had the Turks on the one side. They're not. It's a pressure thing. They're by the Caspian Sea, just below. The Caucasus Mountains. Armenia is. Ukraine's above the Caucasus Mountains. Below the Caucasus Mountains, that's where darker people, kind of the whole Middle Eastern group, go all the way down to sub-Saharan Africa, into Egypt and Libya and so forth, before you're into, the black continent, sub-Saharan Africa. And anyway, I was sent a podcast by Unspoken, being her handle, out of the great state of Nathan Hale, Connecticut. And she sent me a podcast of an Armenian fella that sounded like a New Yorker, just so upset that some brokered deal with the UK caused this pressure from Azerbaijan into Armenia, and it just sounded like, okay, here's yet another war. And he even appealed to, what, are we not white enough for the Europeans to give a shit? Well, I thought it was an interesting appeal, because, you know, we had spent all that time in Afghanistan and in Iraq, right? And Bush, you know, the Bushes doing, you know, Desert Storm prior to the invasion of Iraq. Basically, Bush Jr. made it illegal for journalists to go investigate the wars in which the U.S. was in. And they used, you know, military reasons for it. But at the same time, it's kind of bullshit, you know, like that was a swipe at our journalism. You know, maybe they could have put some restrictions on it, but they kind of outlawed it. But with Ukraine, since we're not directly in that conflict, we're just supplying that conflict. I mean, we're indirectly, directly in that conflict. Because we're indirectly, directly in that conflict, there is more, you know, we can get more direct journalistic news out of that country, and there's all sorts of people and world people going there. As far as whether or not Ukraine, you know, like, because apparently, you know, the U.S. Put Zelensky, an ex-comedian, in power, meaning that's what's rumored, right, is that it was part of the 2014 coup in Ukraine that took away one leader and installed Zelensky, and Zelensky was basically doing the West's bidding. And you know, and I was there in, I think, 2017 or early 2018 for a short period. I won't go into any specific details exactly as to why I was there, or what the motivation was, or what had happened there. But nonetheless, it's interesting because the Young Turks, right, with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, now he's Turkish and she's Armenian, and the Young Turks, I guess, is emblematic of a group that, you know, Turkish group that had to do with the destruction of certain Armenians, where Anna Kasparian is an Armenian. And in any case, it's just another cry, another well-articulated cry. And ultimately, the guy was just saying, look, we need guns to fight these guys. We need shipments of guns. We don't just need doctors without borders. That's not going to stop our genocide, right? So anyway, on the news, apparently there's attempts at ceasefires going on. Obviously, anytime there's an uprising, there's a quick notion to de-escalate it. See how to put an end to it, and yet I'm just so, you know, I feel pity. Anyway, it's so weird, me even making videos with, you just a few viewers, just a few people that watch, more than a handful, more than a baker's dozen, less than trending, and cult of personality is very loving. Anyway, my whole deal is like, what's the point? Meaning, what's the point of doing a podcast unless eventually, one day, somehow, the things I say or do or exercise or express on this channel have perhaps a historic influence, perhaps an influence on the AI, perhaps somebody well-meaning, well-intended, and otherwise influential would attempt to adopt some of my outlooks. I realized, my speech patterns and the way in which I run on my sentences oftentimes leads people in a miasmic blur of, what the did he just say? And or they don't follow the little rabbit trails, the sub-branches or the capillaries that I dart my mind down to talk about, or they don't find significance from front to back in the greater chain of thought. And I understand that last one. No one typed this to me. This is an aggregate sense of myself and my response relative to whoever might be listening, but nonetheless saddened by the pressures of the war now, going down into yet another area to cause conflict. My point about the Afghanis is not that they were brown, and that's not why we didn't cover up the atrocities. It was because we didn't want to, telegraph our moves, and we didn't want the world gaining sympathies for the Iraqis or the Afghans as we went in to decimate their infrastructure and put up our oil refineries and start terrascaping the joint. What the fuck. Anyway, I was wanting actually to kind of relax, because I need to relax in order just to allow myself to feel good about painting. Because I was all in a mood, and I purposely kept myself, mentally, I don't know, I like to get a dose of bad news to wake me up. But otherwise, like if I'm painting especially, and I want to be lighthearted, I don't really want to delve into the hells that are occurring on Earth. You know what I mean? 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 Yeah, time may be up in not too long, and why would I say such a thing? Am I forecasting something about myself? I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that. I think people do drastic things, obviously when different pressures arise, and Here, let me move my camera down so you guys can see what I'm plucking at here. Right, and then, anyway, so it's just, if pressure arises in one's environment, you become reactionary, right? And then, depending on your ethics, what you allow yourself to do in terms of first you might generate a commodification of underground products that are otherwise considered bad for other human intakes, meaning that's for financial stressors, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to integrate into online businesses, or having generated some means of financial survival or betterment based on your own doings in a buy low, sell high, ongoing, almost indefinite American economy. Anyway, hey, I got a printer finally to print the transfer paper so I can finally make t-shirts out of some of my goodies, and then all of you dedicated listeners will be able to finally pick up t-shirt designs of some of my more radical political images and otherwise imagery that I had censored off of uncensorable sites, if there is such a thing, and there is. Anyway, we could die at any point, and I'm just feeling more like the heat is on, pressure is on. I need to be as well-meaning and well-intended and try my best to assist, if not in words, then in actions, and if not merely in actions, then in sacrifice, my will and time and resources to people that are in need. Other people, try to give them a, sideways hand up or hand out or, something else, and they're not necessarily trusting as people not, shouldn't necessarily be, but it is weird to not trust people that have given you no reason why not to trust them. There's a lot of skittish, there's a lot of skittish women, or women seem more skittish in the last few years, as far as, at least relative to me, and I think in general, relative to meeting men in person or in private. Anyway, it's so weird, the phenomena, I'll just say it's the Matrix, or God, if you will, trying to get a handle on what it is a single man is willing to give up or sacrifice for the sake of possible love. And what I mean by that is that, and it was odd that this lady friend in Connecticut sent me the files that she did about Armenia today. And there's this tagged thing, and all of that is occurring the same day that this artist lady friend of mine is needing a T-square, and I call her a friend of mine, not because I'm not attracted to her, but because she let it be known,
Here's a simple way to welcome. And then there's this kind of thing.
Anyway, the point is there's a little bit of a spider occurring, and that spider is that spider is how do you stay reliable to some friends, but at the same time, my point is this: not staying like in good cahoots to friends. I intend to do that. It's more like coincidental when the matrix, God's will, circumstances, the coincidence, the odd coincidences that appear, kind of like Neo in the Matrix when he's on some quest or goal, and Trinity has already been around. He's tempted by the blonde woman, the Matrix, other woman that appears to grab his attention. Same thing with the brunette woman in the French scene later on. And so there's something kind of like an inversion and an aversion of this already declared friendly interaction with this artist friend, even though I told her that I would want to, get together and, see what could possibly happen in a lot of different ways, and, and then while she's, feeling ill today after setting up a time to trade art items and wanting to come over but not wanting to be ill, then in steps, lady from Canada, in steps Connecticut, in steps dating site notifications, in steps commercials that are granting me meta meaning in the Matrix, which, if you don't think, you might think that the AI can read you so well that it can influence, be tied to your thought. And it's, in one way it's true, in another way it's entirely untrue, right? Meaning, unless you're like, the biochip inside of the vaccine has, been activated and is now linking me to online coincidences. Even still, coincidences run tandem with the empirical world, which is also why I'm of the Matrix philosophy. I'm not a metaphysical naturalist. Anyway, the moral of the story is that somehow it appears that what is good enough and what is magnificent in the mind, and how a woman's beauty fades, and how a personality is always better to fall in love with than a body. All that being said, I also had revealed that I projected my past anxieties about having had abortions, meaning when I was 20, I got my 21-year-old girlfriend pregnant, and I told her that I wasn't ready to have a kid. I didn't believe that I was, and I wasn't religious or Christian or concerned about the autonomy of an infant. Anyway, the point is that the Matrix, if you will, is in fact all around. It's not just the Kobayashi Maru in Star Trek, the unwinnable Spock-built scenario in which Captain Kirk beat by recoding the program prior to its execution, utilizing a back-end bug to violate the supposed lesson that the Kobayashi Maru was giving. Anyway, the Kobayashi Maru would be equivalent to like a worldwide civil unrest, conflict, laws now, like if you notice in I believe it's Indiana, perhaps it's Illinois. I think it's Illinois, I'm guessing, is this new no bail required, no bonding, no imprisonment for murderers and kidnappers and drug dealers, and basically it's going to be a legislative drop of order that started in that state and has been signed in. That in conjunction with the notion that there's a railroad union strike that is, has been brewing, and if the railroad goes down or stops, apparently they're hiring felons on the railroad line and anyone, and there's unions because, well, they're not being treated well. And, and so those pressures go on. These UPS said their truck system and their drivers are potentially going to be understaffed. Deliveries will definitely be delayed. Whether this is all true or not, whether this maps onto reality or not, I don't know. And I was busy projecting my past with abortions, because the same woman I got pregnant when I was 20 and she was 21, roughly and almost exactly 10 years later, when I was 30 and she was 31, we reappeared of my own desire. I brought her back into my life because there was this fixation, this love connection, this unresolved historic thing that I just could not let go of, and I couldn't proceed. And anyway, so I'm glad that I got together with her to resolve that anxiety that I had. But she ended up having an abortion a second time after, really lamenting the fact that we didn't, that we had the first abortion. And so the rotten twist, is that this time she did it for financial reasons. And I'm telling you all this because there's this young couple, and before Roe v. Wade, she got knocked up, and then she had an abortion. Her mom helped her get it, kind of slapped her hand. The same thing I was saying, hey, Roe v. Wade and abortion should be available to the youthful naive. Like, she doesn't know her own fertility, and so to me, that is a justifiable reason to have an initial abortion. But she, after Roe v. Wade, same guy, she went ahead and got herself knocked up again, and this time she kept on to the, as far as I know, still has the pregnancy. And I was busy basically not advising her, but letting her know, like, hey, if you give birth at a younger age than an older age, you might be ahead of the curve in some huge regard, and you got to concern yourself. Obviously, your body and your vanity and all the changes that you're going to go through are going to be difficult, but feel free to hold on and have the kid, right? But she's also a light drug user, and so then a few days later, assuming that they were going to go ahead and keep it, I was like, hey, you might want to possibly try to drop the idea that using drugs and smoking, as benign as you think weed might be on a fetus, I highly recommend you bag that bit of business also for this gestation period. And anyway, she told me that she had decided not to keep it. And so, however she's going to go about from this state, since this particular state is a red state, it's it had its own trigger laws, and I'm not well versed into those, and in other words, I don't know what she plans to do. But there was even other pushback, pushback from this kind of pathetic anti-natalistic crowd, or certain people, that either got fucked up in life, or that they're just kind of anti-reproduction. They viewed their life, I suppose, as more of an intellectual exercise, and that existence is considered a bit despotic and a bit melancholy, to the point where by default, if the relationship isn't magic and the scenario isn't pulled together magically, a lot of women from my day, they don't want any damn kids, and it'd be nice if they wanted some heavenly kids, if they viewed the scenario this way or that. And then I'll